Yeah.
All right, so what do you guys know about hazard communication? Labeling. What do you know about that?
I know labels in mine.
Yes, ma'am. What would you label? All right, let me put it back into perspective. Now this doesn't have a label, this does. But what did you find out was the most dangerous item on the table? The apple. Because what does it not have?
Label.
All right, here's the trick question. Which one of these is dangerous?
The one without the label.
Would you say that's the most dangerous? Okay, but why would you say it is labeled? Like the peanut butter's labeled, but we know people have allergies. The apple's not labeled, and that's the one you could chew and has cyanide. So again, which one's the most dangerous?
Without the label.
Not the label.
Without the label. Let's try that out. Let's see if you're right. If you're not right, our camera person's going to get splashed because guess what they won't have on? The appropriate PPE. Remember we talked about this? This is going to be a little bit awkward. So one's labeled. If someone gets affected by peanuts, we know to give them an EpiPen or to follow their protocols, right? We know that the apple is not labeled. It contains, the reason it's hazard, we don't know what the hazard is because there's no label to state, right? So in the same thing, you got a labeled product and one that's not. So if it's true, the one that's not labeled is going to be the most dangerous, right? Because we don't know what it is. We can't pull up an SDS and say, hey, what's the proper material? Now the reason I'm putting this in, one of these is an acid. And you're going to see is that the soda ash and the material is going to respond to it. So the one that's properly labeled, we know how to identify, right? If somebody gets affected by it, we know what to do. We can pull that SDS. The apple, we don't know, so we have to hope Google has the right information. So since the one is not labeled, we don't know what the hazard is, we're going to put the soda ash in that one first, and then we're going to put it in the second one to determine which one is the worst hazard. Now, if I catch on fire, fire extinguisher's right there, aim for the head. Knock me out and then spray me. That way you don't hear the screaming. All right. We're going to go to the unlabeled hazardous material because we don't know what it is. Don't run. Okay, no reaction. So we know it's not an acid.
Right.
We're going to go to the second one. It's properly labeled. There should be absolutely no reaction. Which one's the acid?
Label.
Labeled one.
So would you say the biggest danger is from something not having a label or from something being mislabeled?
It's
Just
labeled.
labeled.
Last year, over 50 people were injured or killed because something was mislabeled. When there was a reaction or it got on their bodies, nobody knew what to do because when they pulled the SDS for that label, guess what happened? They treated them for the wrong thing. Mislabeling will kill you faster than no label because when there's no label, people will take caution and say, I don't know what that is, don't drink it. The downside is these are in consumable bottles. What happens on construction sites, they'll put acid and stuff to clean stainless steel, or they'll put milk of magnesia to use as a anti-seize. And what happens is someone goes up and says, is that water, is that drink? Oh, maybe it's a meal, maybe it's, I don't know what's in Raven's bottle, but you can get flavor drops. But what if I'm allergic to that? So everything must be labeled, and in some cases where that was acid, it must be labeled properly. So now that I've neutralized it, you think it's safe to handle? Because you saw what it did to the bacon. Because I neutralized it. And look at that, it's still bubbling, but it's a lot weaker than when I imagine would have been like had I not put that stuff in there to neutralize it. So that acetic acid is now neutral. Any questions?